I'll tell you this, it's gonna be hard not to swear watching this movie.
Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones, Indiana It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones, Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Gerry Porter.
And we are back with the Temple of Doom, and we're diving right into minute number 1 of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And minute 1 begins with the Paramount logo, and it ends with a credit for someone named Kiwei Kwan as Short Round over an Asian-flavored floor show.
Well, I love that we start once again with the Paramount Mountain. And this is kind of like this is the Indiana Jones version of the 20th Century Fox fanfare. Like this is this is what you expect.
It's probably cool, like sitting in the theater, like the first time you saw this, and be like, "Oh, they did it again! They did the mountain thing. That's like a gag now, I guess." Okay, cool. Although, do you think it's at all disappointing that it's like a manufactured, mountain? Like it's not. They didn't find a mountain in Hawaii this time. They just like made one on a gong. Is that at all disappointing?
No, I think it's kind of cool because I think it was. I mean, it's funny that there's a gong in China with a mountain in Utah on it, but I think it's pretty cool.
I agree. I think I like that. It's a different movie, but it's a nice segue.
But this movie is such a mixture of old Hollywood and new Hollywood and Spielberg. Like it's a throwback to kind of the old serials and the new stuff. And I love that they start with this vintage logo that Paramount hadn't used in, at this point 30 years. And it's got the mountain, and it's got those 24 stars, that constellation of stars that float around the mountain. And we have an article on our website in the library section, and it talks about how those 24 stars were there because in 1921, when Paramount made this logo, they had 24 major stars under contract. And it's cool names. It's like Rudolph Valentino, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, Gloria Swanson, Cecil B. DeMille. And it's like we're going from that to Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, and it's a cool progression.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that Harrison Ford starring in. We get this big, it's like name over the credits, but it's Harrison Ford starring in. And is that strictly like it's not just because he's a bigger movie star now in 1984, but is that like strictly like a tie-in to like 30s movies and stuff? Do you think?
Yeah.
Like is that the style of like I can't even think of like. They probably did do titles like that a lot, like Gary Cooper starring in Well, that was like in the 50s, but still, it seems like a timely thing.
Yeah, and they would usually list they would have the first title card would list the title, and then they'd list a couple of the big stars, and then they would list everybody else in the movie because they would usually run all the credits at the beginning of the movie at that point.
Yeah.
What I noticed about the title is that this blonde woman who's singing, Kate Capshaw, she's like in front of it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was incredible, and I don't know why.
Well, this is the only movie that does this kind of the kind of titles you see on the poster in the box and everything.
Yeah,
and stuff.
The classic font. Yeah.
Yeah, the others all look like Raiders, that kind of like just straight white lettering. But yeah, this one they kind of go all out.
And see, this makes me think that we're definitely still in Carbonite fever dream territory, because Han Solo would definitely, his dream would start with, a pretty woman holding up her hands, and there's his name all of a sudden.
Right.
Starring in this dream.
I present to you Han Solo.
Well, the first thing, though, other than, we have a mountain and a mountain, and it starts with music, but the music, is very mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what type of mischief this may be.
Yeah, it feels
like it's almost brooding or maybe fretful, like fretful mischief.
And again, the music feels like an old '40s noir. Like it's compelling, intense, and feverish, and it's like you said, it's mysterious. You don't know where it's going, but it's got an urgency to it. It's got sort of a dark strain.
Yeah, and then it starts to, like, the dancers all show up, and this blonde woman shows up from inside this dragon's mouth and stuff, and you get the big title and everything, and the music does. Okay, a lot of people talk about racism in this movie. I'll just get right into that in episode 1. But like,
Yay.
But okay, I honestly don't know the answer to this, and you guys can help me out. Is it the music does?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Is there any legitimate, authentic way to do that without it being racist? To play that kind of Bugs Bunny, da 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 da, we're in Asia or something music.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay, Gerry.
Well, remember,
I might be making something out of nothing. Maybe it's totally fine. Maybe it's like kind of innocent, but
I've got that in my notes too.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I guess what I'd say is, well, first of all, they did the same thing in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they have these little, almost like musical snippets, where we said it's like, you know, when they show the plane and they're getting to Nepal. Remember, right. They when the plane lands in Nepal, and it's basically I
guess that's what I mean. It's like there's like, you know, regional motifs and stuff. You know, like the music changes when you get to Egypt, and the music changes when you get to Peru and stuff. But
I just think this one has so much cultural baggage behind it.
I guess that's a great way of putting it.
There's
a lot of
it's sure as hell isn't subtle.
No.
It's what we're saying. It's not subtle. Nothing.
But here, I've got a subtle thing for you. The music, like if we're talking about this little riff here, it's second 37 right before this. They play "When You Wish Upon a Star," like Disney's theme song. Like there's a little quote of
"Get out of here"
"When you wish upon a star," and I like to think it's an ancient prophecy saying that one day Disney was going to own Indiana Jones.
Oh my gosh!
I'm way in over my head. Well,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I never noticed it.
Talking about like sort of, I guess, regional motifs, I wonder, and we may have even talked about this in Raiders, but what is distinctively American? If you were in Nepal and when you see the plane, you know, if you were to make the movie and the plane starts at, you know, in the Bay Area, you'd be like, are they playing like rock and roll? Yeah, we love it. I mean, like, what's our regional, or is it like, you know, doom chicka boom chicka doom chicka, like a Western?
Yeah.
I just want, like, what would be our regional?
We talked this a little
snippet.
last time. In San Francisco it'd be Journey, and you know, in Chicago would be Chicago, in Boston it would be Boston.
New York is Frank Sinatra.
Right.
Well, but talking about the regional motifs and the sound and all that, and getting way into the very beginning of this minute, I'm actually going to call horse crap on that gong.
Well, I'm glad you called it a gong.
Yeah.
I was afraid to call it a gong because the last time I called something a gong in one of these movies, you put me in my place.
Well, this one at least looks like a gong, and it's round, and it's being hit with a big mallet.
Wait. See? That's what I'm calling horse crap. I'm here. I mean, the guy who sells cymbals for a living. First of all, the gong striker is using a metal mallet.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, if you look at it, he's using a metal mallet. So he's hitting metal with metal.
Rock and roll.
And a gong that huge, you know, if you're hitting it with a metal mallet, is going to go clonk. And everybody's going to spit their drinks out. It's going to be loud and low pitched, and there's going to be, but what we have is this warm, complex, euphonic whoosh that says we must be in China. Whoosh. Kind of like regional motifs, which, and by the way, the gong that they do use that you hear is a Chinese wind gong.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's like the sound of the gong is accurate. However, the way the gong looks has nothing to do with the way that gong would sound. A, it's massive and huge, and B, you know, gongs are usually made of brass or bronze, and like that sort of alloy. a bronze alloy, and this thing looks like it's either pewter or it's steel.
Yeah.
Or they may have like fancy powder coated it because they put a mountain from Utah on it.
Well, I was gonna say, like, is it if it was made out of the right material, but it had a mountain like embossed on it, wouldn't that mess up the sound? I'm imagining it. Wouldn't that be kind of
No,
weird?
it would be all right. I mean, it would mess it up a little bit, but if it was actually like not like a weird pewter gong that you hit with a metal mallet, it wouldn't be nearly as high pitched as it is in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like what, 5 or 6 feet big or something. I mean, it's huge. That's a really low gong that actually, when struck, is the sort of thing when you hit it, the reverberations wouldn't really even be entirely heard or felt till like a second later, or maybe 2 seconds later, because it's that big. It has to vibrate all the way through the gong and then come out.
Well, maybe this is like the Shanghai version of lip syncing. Like they put the good-looking front guy here, and he pretends to hit the gong, and there's actually a guy back in the orchestra that hits the real gong.
Yeah.
Because this guy's like showing off his Hot Topic studded bracelets and his harem pants. And...
this little 3-inch gong that goes. Whoa.
Who is this guy, by the way? Who do you guys think is like the actor? Do you guys have any thoughts, or do you know?
Oh, doing the gong?
Yeah.
I assume it's Chuck Barris, isn't it? No, sorry. That was such a stupid joke.
Oh my God. I just kind of want to look like it when we get to the end of the movie. Is he going to be placed higher in order than, say, the bad
God.
guy? Than Mola Ram or whatever.
Right.
And B, is his name going to be Gong Striker?
Well, there's a surprising amount of controversy about this man. Like,
weird.
Some people think he's Pat Roach. Some people think it's stuntman Bill Reed. And some people think it's a guy named Don Stansock, who is a professional wrestler who went by the name Hard Boiled Haggerty. And so, like, there was a story that somebody contacted Kathleen Kennedy because they wanted to know who this actually was, who played this guy. And she didn't know. And so she said, I'll call Frank Marshall, and he didn't know. And so they don't, like, there's no clear conjecture if it's Pat Roach or if it's these other two guys.
Weird.
That's really weird. And he kicks off the whole movie.
And he kicks off the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Pat Roach.
I don't think it's Pat Roach.
I feel like I know
either.
my Pat
No,
Roaches.
That's not Pat Roach.
Yeah. But he does a great job of playing a fake gong fakely.
Well, and, I was thinking anything goes. It was written in, I believe it's 1934, Cole Porter, right?
All right.
So we're all looking around trying to get some contextual clues here. So you think it's got to be post 1934, but clearly anything goes is probably a new hit single.
Right. Just made it to Asia.
But it's already made it to China, yeah.
Yeah. And I absolutely love this version of it because it's like this nice, buoyant tempo. And I remember seeing this as a kid in the theater and feeling uncomfortable because, I was in 6th grade, 7th grade. I loved AC/DC, Van Halen. And if I was feeling a little bit weepy, maybe some Tears for Fears.
That's what they're there for, Jimmy.
But this was like a show tune.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved it, but it's a show tune. And I had this sort of, like your aunt likes show tunes. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? And I thought, it almost felt like a reverse puberty. like I wasn't sure if I was going to lose all my pubic hair or what was happening. Well, and the other thing is, like, there's nothing wrong with show tunes. I just was used to Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, which was You Shook Me All Night Long, which is a new hit single. And I don't know, I felt it was strange. And I remember seeing the movie a second time in the theater. I was like, God, I love this song.
Yeah.
It was on the soundtrack, I remember. And I didn't look this up or anything. I assume that's Kate Capshaw singing.
It is. She actually, so she had to learn Mandarin for this role, for the song. And apparently she sings it so horribly that nobody who speaks Mandarin can understand a word of the song.
But she's the nine.
She gave it a good effort.
Temple of
yeah.
I thought one of the things that she wanted to do was sort of show off her singing, and that was one of the reasons she took the role. Kate Capshaw took this role, is because she wanted to show off her singing and her tap dancing, which I don't know if she fully got to do because her dress was too slim fitting. Did you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I think she's killing it in this opening number.
Oh,
I was going to say,
yeah.
I don't think it's spoilery or jumping ahead or anything. The movie's been out for 1,000 years. There's a lot of controversy about her character in this movie, about the worth of it and what it does or doesn't bring to the movie. But I'm going to say, so far in this minute, I'm into her. Like, I think she looks really cool. The posing she does with the Harrison Ford starring in and the big Indiana Jones, like right before the song starts, that's all like striking. It's actually really good. So I'm kind of into her so far.
This is going to be a great movie.
Well, okay.
Minute one.
Yeah, I am firmly on side Willie Scott so far, and I may be for the whole movie. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Well, I have a note here, and I don't know if this is too early to say, but I have a note here that says I plan to flip-flop on this opening for the next few days. Because I like this opening so far. It's very cool, but then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is like the new Indiana Jones movie. This is like the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's like a big splashy thing, and she's singing Cole Porter, and I don't totally get it yet. I don't. I mean, it's cool, but does it fit? Is this what I came here for? Like, Mr. Spielberg, I'm a 13-year-old kid. You're supposed to know exactly what I'm into. You're supposed to have your finger on my pulse.
It's still captivating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, it totally is.
It's still captivating, and that's what I'm excited about for Temple of Doom. I mean, if we go down, we have a great Paramount logo, check. We have a mountain segueing into a mountain, check.
Yep.
Yeah, we have mysterious music. Well, we'll come back to that.
Right.
And we have a great looking gong. And a great and a great sounding gong, even if it's not the correct. And then we have a fantastic rendition of Anything Goes, and who's this new lady? And
she's she's poised and striking, and she's belched out of this fever dream of a dragon's mouth, and it's a spectacular.
She's killing. I mean, honestly, what could go wrong?
Yeah. No, I'm all on board right now.
Buckle in.
But we're sitting here like as 13-year-olds or whatever, 11-year-olds, like sitting here trying to figure out what's about to happen in this movie, and I wonder if we should step back for a minute and talk about how we got to this point. Like,
that's
we start talking a little bit, like, how did we get here from Raiders? Yeah,
we dove right in, and now we should stop the movie, get some popcorn.
Well, I mean, it's yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I mean, this was I think of. I mean, we talked about this a lot when we were talking about Raiders, that, it's like 1980. Wait, oh, Jesus. 81. 81. No, I mean, Raiders, I mean.
Oh,
I have to think for like half an hour between Empire and Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay, we had Empire and then we had Raiders. Okay. So, like, I mean, just flatly, there's a huge difference between 1981 and 1984. There's a huge difference. Like, and I don't even know what I've never yet been able to qualify it specifically, but
still
between
almost the 70s.
Yeah, it's like almost the 70s, and then it's like well into the 80s, basically. It's like mid 80s. It's like, I mean, Streets of Fire was out at the same time as this movie. It's kind of like things are different now. I think we're in a different part of the 80s now. But yeah, like we've had Return of the Jedi since Raiders. We've had E.T., Poltergeist, Blade Runner, some others in there. You got your War Games.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of people on this movie worked on a lot of those you just mentioned.
Yeah. So it's like it's sort of like a cottage industry by now. It's sort of like, hey, we'll all get together, we'll make a big blockbuster. It'll be awesome. It'll probably star Harrison Ford. It'll probably have Lucas on it somewhere. John Williams, will get him, either him or Jerry Goldsmith. It'll be great.
Well, that was, they knew, like, when they made Raiders, a lot of these guys like Spielberg and Lucas and Harrison Ford all signed up for a 3-movie deal. Like, so they knew going in it was going to be 3 movies. And at the time, George Lucas famously told Steven Spielberg that he had 3 stories in his mind already written.
Yeah.
And so, Raiders comes out and it's a huge hit. And Spielberg tells a story how he sits down with George Lucas and he's like, "So what's part number 2?" And it turns out he didn't have 2 other stories.
I never would have guessed that.
And so they sat down and George Lucas has this idea about a haunted house in Scotland. And Spielberg had just made Poltergeist. He's like, I don't want to do that again. And so they came up with this idea. They're going to make Indiana Jones and the Temple of Death. And it's going to be set in India. And they bring on a couple of writers who they think fit the mood of the movie. And that's kind of how they got to this point.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember when I was first aware of Temple of Doom. I'm not going to be able to figure it out. But I know that in 1982, I started noticing Starlog magazine with Spock on the cover from Wrath of Khan. And so I got all into that, and then I was reading about every Jedi. I was poring over all these magazines, learning about Jedi and stuff. And then after a while, Indiana Jones, the next Indiana Jones movie's coming out, Temple of Death. It's going to be awesome, and Temple of Doom. And there were all these. The image that always drives me nuts is him holding the sword, and he's got one sleeve missing from his shirt. And that was a huge image that was in all the magazines. And I think I said this in our hiatus show, but that he it looked like the sword was so shiny, I thought it was clear. I thought it was like a crystal sword or something. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. And later, oh, it's just a sword, but it's still cool. All right.
Well, next time you see something crystal in Indiana Jones franchise, you're going to be really happy.
It's going to be awesome. Finally, my need for Indiana Jones crystal
crystal
related
something.
Stuff will be, yeah.
There's several people mentioned in the credits. Amrish Puri, who plays Mola Ram, a couple of actors in this movie, was in Gandhi. And apparently he shaved his head for this movie and liked the way it looked so much that he kept it. He kept that look and went on to star as a villain in several movies in India, and he was famous for the shaved head.
Oh, nice.
Wow. But he was a huge Bollywood actor, was he not?
Yeah. We've got Roshan Seth, who plays Chatur Lal. If you were a fan of Gandhi, the movie, he played Nehru. He was also in Passage to India. What?
I've never seen Gandhi.
Huh?
You know what? I haven't either.
Someday. I remember being mad at Gandhi because it beat Tron for best costumes. I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy's got a sheet. This guy's all glowy and he's in a video game. The name in the credits that we get in this minute that I like a lot is Philip Stone. Because he's a Kubrick guy, and he's in he's Gerry. He's Grady in The Shining.
Oh,
he's
wow.
The former caretaker. So there. I like him. I always assume that Steven Spielberg is like, ooh, I'll get that guy from I'll get that Kubrick guy. I figure everybody he's like, I'm a big Hollywood director now. I can get people into my movies that I wanted to meet. I can hang out with him and ask him questions about stuff.
And he was using Barry Lyndon and Clockwork Orange, and he was.
Yeah.
And then
he's Alex's dad. That's right. We can't just kick Joel out.
We get Roy Chow as Lao Che, who I think is a brilliant casting move. And Roy was born in Shanghai in 1927, so definitely fits the era here. And before he worked on stuff here, he did English language dubbing for Hong Kong films. And then he went on he was an interpreter for the U.S. Army during the Korean War. So it had kind of interesting backstory.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And then we get Kiwei Kwan. Is that right? Is he the last one we get in this minute?
Yeah, we end on him.
Yeah. That was a big deal for some reason. I don't know why. I knew his name before I saw the movie. I was like, oh, Kiwei Kwan. I read about him in the magazines and stuff. And it's cool that a kid, some random kid, gets to be in an Indiana Jones movie.
Well, there was that whole story about he was his brother was auditioning for the part, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, and they didn't really like his brother, but apparently he kept telling his brother what to do. And that's how he got the job. They just liked his personality.
He had moxie.
Yeah, he had moxie, and apparently it was he's from Los Angeles or whatever, and he's Vietnamese. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, since I said moxie, can I tell a really quick story that I just learned recently? Steven Spielberg wanted to have Marion in this movie. And George Lucas convinced him, nah, there should be a different girl each movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm just going to, it's out there now.
Yeah.
Everyone has to think about that.
Well, one of those guys went on to make really good movies.
Yeah. Not like he used to, though.
Fair enough.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know that, Gerry is a huge prequel apologist.
Get him.
I'm pretty much, what's a prequel?
I will say the idea, on paper, the idea of having a different, love interest, woman, whatever, in each movie, that's kind of, I mean, especially when you think, oh, he was, Spielberg wanted to do James Bond, in that sense, I can see that working, and that's a good idea on paper. But let's take our time and see if that worked out okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you feel if Han Solo had a different love interest and?
Well, I mean, technically he does.
Han Solo
read
does?
the comic books.
Yeah. He's got Leia, he's got Marion, he's got, well, we'll see.
I'm too slow for you, Pete.
Well, I mean, we're settling in for a long haul, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to be back. Yeah, this is going to be fun. We haven't really talked about if we like this movie or not, but maybe we'll get into that later.
We're on minute 1.
I know, but we all know what we're thinking.
Let's just do minute 1 tomorrow. It is really good.
Well, should we wrap this up and come back next time for
Yeah.
more of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we do at this point? It's been a while. Oh yeah, Pete. How can people get in touch with us and let us know that they're excited that we're back and all that?
Well, you can find us on Facebook. We have a special page there called Indiana Jones and the Listener's Crusade. If you want to join, it's a group, and you can join lots of other people discussing the movie, or you can find us on the web at our own website at indianajonesminute.com.
And you should do those things, which we hope you've been doing all along, even while we've been gone. Or maybe you're just joining us now. If you are, hey, welcome. I think you're going to have fun. And please come and join us tomorrow, where we'll talk about minute 2 of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Is it Chuck Barris?
Yeah, it's Chuck Barris with the big gong.
Yeah.
You always look.
You wish upon a Jones!